is one office in this country that was never elected, cannot be voted out, cannot be questioned in the parliament, and can send you to jail for what you say about it. No, I'm not making that up. Let me show you the law. The Chief Justice of India sits at the top of the court created by Article 124 of the Constitution. The office holds three kinds of power, and most people know about only one. First, they decide cases. Obvious, everybody knows this. Second, they decide who decides. The Chief Justice is what the Supreme Court itself calls the master of the rooster. The Chief Justice alone determines which judge on which bench hears which case. Think about what that means. In a court of over 30 judges, the outcome of a politically sensitive case can depend on which three names appear on the course of the list, and one person writes that list. Third, they decide who becomes a judge. Through the collegium, the Chief Justice and the four senior-most judges recommend appointments to the Supreme Court and the High Courts. The judiciary appoints itself. There is no other institution in India that does this. And there is a fourth thing, which is not so much of a power, but which acts as a shield. Article 121 of the Indian Constitution says the conduct of the judge cannot be even discussed in the parliament, except when a motion for the removal is before the House. So, an unelected office, self-appointing, that controls its own docket, and the parliament is forbidden to debate. Now, I want to be fair, because I want you to believe me. I want to be believed. Every one of these protections was built for a reason, and the reason is good. A judge who can be fired for an unpopular judgment is not a judge. They are an employee. Independence of the judiciary is what lets a court rule against the most powerful government in the country. We have needed that, and we will need that again. But independence is not same as unaccountability, and somewhere between these two words, the country lost the plot. Now, let me kill a humor that's going around, because if we fight with wrong facts, we lose. You'll hear people say that the judge can do anything and can walk away, that they could assault you in the street and nothing would happen to them. Now, that's false. Do not repeat. Judges do not have the blanket immunity. Article 361, the provision that gives a real personal immunity from criminal proceedings, applies to the president and the governors. It does not name judges. It never has. What protects a judge is the Judges Protection Act 1985. Read the section 3 carefully. No court may entertain or continue any civil or criminal proceedings against a person who is or was a judge for anything done or said in the course of acting or purporting to act in the discharge of their official or judicial duty. Official duty or judicial duty. On the bench, not in a park, not in a car park, not in even your street. And read subsection 2 clearly, which nobody quotes. That protection does not bar the central government or the state government, the Supreme Court or the High Court from taking civil, criminal or departmental action against a judge. The shield covers the judgment. It was never meant to cover the person. So, what's the real problem? The real problem is the gate. In K. Veeraswamy versus Union of India, decided in 1991, the Supreme Court held that a sitting judge of the High Court or the Supreme Court is a public servant. So, under the Prevention of Corruption Act, they can be prosecuted. But the sanction to prosecute must come from the Chief Justice of India. Read that again carefully, listen to it again carefully. Before a corruption case can be registered against a sitting judge, the head of the judiciary must agree. That's not an immunity. It's something quieter and more effective, a lock, and the institution holds the key. And for almost 30 years after the judgment, no Chief Justice granted the sanction against a single sitting judge, not one. The first time it happened was in 2019. And removal. Article 124, Clause 4 allows it only for proved misbehavior or incapacity through the Judges Inquiry Act of 1968. You need a motion signed by 100 people of Lok Sabha MPs or 50 Rajya Sabha MPs. The Speaker or the Chairman must admit it. An inquiry committee must find them guilty. Then both the houses must pass this with a majority of total membership and the 2/3 of the present and voting. That is the special majority. In 76 years of this republic, not even one judge has ever been removed through that process. Not one. Justice Ramaswamy's motion failed on the floor in 1993. Justice Soumitra Sen resigned before the Lok Sabha could even vote. And in July 2025, when more than 100 Lok Sabha members and over 50 Rajya Sabha members moved against Justice Yashwant Verma of the Allahabad High Court, the machinery finally started and the resignation came later. So, yes, the door exists. It is just nobody has ever been carried through it. But you are not powerless. Here is what you can actually have. The Right to Information Act. On 13th November 2019, a 5-judge constitution bench held that the office of the Chief Justice of India comes under the RTI Act. the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice are not two separate authorities and the whole institution is a public authority. Essay declarations and the collegium correspondence are not automatically public. Each request is made for the public interest. So, the door is open. File. The Supreme Court's in-house inquiry mechanism for complaints against judges opaque and it cannot itself lead to prosecution, but every complaint creates a record. Article 19 Clause 1A, your voice, which brings me to the part you actually came here for. How far you can go. If you're online right now making jokes about the Chief Justice, listen carefully because I want you to be free and I want you to be loud. The law is the Contempt of Courts 1971 and Article 19 Clause 2 of the Constitution openly lists contempt of court as a legitimate restriction on the free speech. So this is not a loophole. It is in the design. Section 2 Clause 2 defines criminal contempt in three ways. Anything that scandalizes or lowers the authority of the court, anything that prejudices or interferes with an pending case, and anything that obstructs the administration of the justice. The first one, scandalizing the court, is a vague one. It is the one that can solo you. England abolished this offense in 2013. India kept it. Now punishment. Punishment under section 12. Simple imprisonment up to 6 months or a fine up to 2,000 rupees or both. Yes, a 2,000 rupees fine. The money is not so much. But the 6 months is the point and so is the process. The court you allegedly insulted is the court that tries you, judge and the complainant in the same row. Now, the part nobody tells you. The Act protects you too. Learn these four numbers. Section 4. Fair and accurate reporting of the court proceedings is not a contempt. Section 5. Fair criticism of a judgment on its merits is not a contempt. Say that out loud. You're allowed to say a judgment is wrong, badly reasoned, cowardly, inconsistent. Now that is protected. Section 13 Clause A. From the 2006 amendment, no one can be punished unless the contempt substantially interferes with the due courses of justice. So, offense alone is not enough. Section 13 Clause B. Truth is a valid defense if raised in the good faith and in public interest. Before 2006, it was not. Somebody fought for that, so use it. And section 15. A private person cannot drag you into the criminal contempt on their own. They need the written consent of an attorney general. The court can act on its own motion, but a random offended stranger cannot. Now, where is the line? I mean, practically. You are on solid ground when you attack a judgment, attack the reasoning, quote an oral remark accurately and say it was disgraceful, demand collegium reform, file RTIs, report facts, and satirize an institution's conduct. That is impractical. Now, when you are in danger when you allege corruption or a bribe without any evidence, state as fact that a judge was bought or bent, fabricate or doctor a court, spread a deep fake, threaten a judge or their family, or call on people to defy court orders. Notice that pattern. Criticism is protected. Invented allegation is not. And remember that word that leaves you. Parliament amended this law in 2006 to say that truth spoken in good faith and in public interest is a defense. And section 5 says fair criticism of a judgment is not contempt. Section 13 says offense alone is not enough, it must substantially interfere with the judges. Those words were not a gift. Somebody fought for each of them. They belong to you. Someone on the highest bench in this country called an unemployed young something no one should call another human being. The clarification came later that the remark was misquoted and aimed only at those with fake degrees. Fine, let the record show both. But here's the thing that no clarification can do. It took an insult from the bench from an entire generation to finally read the Constitution. They were called cockroaches. They went and looked up their rights. So, use the law, cite the section, speak the truth. Because truth is now a defense. Criticize the judgment, not the motives you cannot prove. Stay accurate and you stay free. And a citizen who is accurate is far more dangerous to a bad institution than one who is merely angry. Jai Hind. Thank you.